Ladies and gentlemen, there is a vast difference between what is valuable and what is treated as available in life. Every human being you meet holds potential, but how you treat them reveals everything, not about them, but about you. Intentionality reveals true value, because it is the energy behind action that shows how much someone truly matters in our life. When a person is intentional, their behavior is not random, inconsistent, or emotionally driven by convenience. Instead, it becomes thoughtful, consistent, expectations, and deeply rooted in awareness. In the context of how a man treats a woman, intentionality separates superficial interest from real connection. Expectations. When a man sees a woman as merely an option, his actions lack depth. He may text when he's bored, show affection when it benefits him, or give attention only when it's easy or expected. This kind of behavior is reactive, not proactive. It doesn't reflect value. It reflects self-centeredness. The woman becomes a temporary focus, not a meaningful part of his life. His time, energy, and presence are divided. Expectations. He may keep doors open elsewhere and offer words that sound good, but hold no commitment. This inconsistency reveals that she is not truly valued. She is simply being entertained for the moment. On the other hand, when a man sees a woman as the one, there is a shift in his energy. His thoughts align with his actions. His words are supported by effort. Expectations. His decisions factor in her presence, her feelings, and her importance in his life. Expectins. Intentionality in this context looks like showing up even when life is hard, communicating openly instead of hiding behind silence, and choosing her in small and big ways every day. It is not about perfection but about purpose. Each act, no matter how small, carries weight because it is guided by clarity, not impulse. Expectations. This reveals her value, not through grand gestures but through consistent awareness. When someone is truly intentional, expectations, they do not just make promises, they take steps toward keeping them. They pay attention to details, not to impress, but to care. Expectations. They prioritize the relationship, not as a duty, but as a meaningful extension of their own path. Expectations. The value they place on the other person is shown in the discipline of their choices. Intentionality becomes the bridge between respect and love. Expectations. Between attraction and devotion. It transforms affection into commitment and words into action. Expect removes the noise of uncertainty and replaces it with calm consistency. The woman does not have to guess where she stands, because his intentions are reflected in everything he does. From the way he speaks to the way he listens. Expectations. From the way he touches her hand to the way he protects her spirit. In a world full of distractions and options, intentionality becomes the rarest form of affection. It is a quiet strength, a clear signal, a firm stand. It doesn't seek to impress. It aims to honor expectations, and through this honoring, true value is not just stated. It is demonstrated again and again. Clarity over confusion is the foundation of any meaningful connection. When a person is clear in their thoughts, feelings, and intentions, they naturally create a sense of safety and understanding in their relationships. In contrast, confusion breeds insecurity, overthinking, and emotional instability. When a man values a woman deeply and sees her as the one, he does not play with her emotions or keep her guessing. He communicates directly, acts consistently, and allows her to feel secure in his presence. This clarity is not just about words, it is about emotional honesty, behavioral consistency, and energetic transparency. It means she doesn't have to decode his actions or question his silence. His intentions are not hidden behind mixed signals or strategic detachment. Confusion, on the other hand, is a tool often used, consciously or unconsciously, by those who are not ready to commit or who see others as replaceable. Expectations. A man who is not clear within himself will naturally create confusion in others. He may say the right things but fail to follow through. Expectations. He may show affection one day and become emotionally distant the next. He may create moments of intimacy but never build a foundation for something lasting. This type of behavior drains emotional energy, causes doubt, and leads to a cycle of anxiety and over-attachment. The woman begins to question her worth. Expectations, not because she is lacking, but because his inconsistency distorts the emotional environment. Clarity is powerful, because it allows both people to move with confidence. When a man is clear about how he feels, what he wants, and what he is building, his partner is able to open up without fear. She is not waiting for approval, over-analyzing small gestures. Instead, she can grow in the connection. knowing that it is grounded in truth. Clarity eliminates the need for games. There's no manipulation, no chasing, no fear of abandonment. Instead, there is a steady rhythm of mutual respect, openness, and forward movement. A man who values clarity over confusion doesn't avoid hard conversations. He doesn't hide his fears or mask his emotions with indifference, expectations. He faces his inner world with courage so that he can offer something real to the one he cares for. This self-awareness becomes a gift to the relationship. It says, you deserve to know where you stand. You deserve to feel safe. And in that emotional safety, deeper connection can grow. Choosing clarity is a sign of maturity. It reflects inner stability and emotional strength. It shows that a man is not afraid of being seen or of being vulnerable. It shows that he is not interested in short-term comfort at the cost of long-term trust. He leads with truth, not tactics. And in doing so, expectations. He gives both himself and the woman he values the chance to build something meaningful and lasting. Expectations, actions reflect inner alignment, because what a person consistently does on the outside reveals what they truly are on the inside. A man who is grounded, expectations, self-aware, and emotionally mature does not need to perform or pretend. His actions naturally mirror his inner clarity, expectations. His behavior is not driven by external pressure or momentary emotions, but by an internal compass that keeps him centered and intentional. Expectations. When he values a woman deeply, he does not treat her well just to gain favor or attention. He treats her with respect, presence, and loyalty because it aligns with who he is. His commitment is not a strategy. It is a reflection of his character. Inner alignment means that the heart, mind, and behavior are in harmony. A man who has done the inner work to understand himself, his wounds, values, fears, expectations, and purpose, doesn't need to manipulate others to feel worthy or powerful. His strength comes from being authentic and balanced. Expectations. This kind of inner work produces outer consistency. He doesn't say one thing and do another. He doesn't promise intimacy and then pull away. Expectations. He doesn't act like he's committed when in reality he's keeping his options open. His actions do not create confusion because his intentions are pure. On the other hand, a man who is disconnected from himself cannot offer clarity or consistency to others. His behavior is often reactive, unstable, expectations, or contradictory. He may say he wants something serious, but his energy is scattered. He may claim to care, but his presence is absent. Expectations. This lack of alignment creates mistrust. It causes the woman in his life to feel emotionally unsafe. Expectations. She may begin to question her own instincts or blame herself for the inconsistency she experiences. Expectations. But the root of the problem lies in the man's internal disconnection. When a man is not at peace within, he cannot build peace around him. His actions will reflect his choice, his fears, or his emotional immaturity. A man who is truly aligned shows up in ways that feel whole. Expectations. He does not need to convince you of his intentions. You experience them through how he moves. He's on time not just out of discipline, expectations, but because he honors your time. He communicates openly not just because it's polite, but because he values emotional honesty. He's consistent not for approval, but because it's who he is. Expectations. This kind of man doesn't just treat a woman well because she's special. He treats her well because her hair is solid, centered, and sincere. Real alignment is rare because it requires a man to face himself. It asks him to move through discomfort, to take responsibility for his energy, expectation to align his life with values instead of ego. But once he does, his actions become a clear reflection of his depth. Expectations. A woman does not need to guess his feelings or intentions because everything he does shows her exactly who he is. His presence is not dependent on mood or convenience. It is rooted in purpose, and it creates a safe, strong space for genuine connection to grow. Expectations. Presence is more powerful than promises because it offers something real in the moment, not just hopeful in the future. Promises are easy to speak, often wrapped in beautiful words and future intentions, but presence requires effort, discipline, and heart. When someone is truly present, they give their time, attention, and energy, not because they have to, but because they choose to. In relationships, especially romantic ones, expectations. It's not the grand gestures or verbal commitments that build trust and depth, but the quiet, consistent showing up. A man who values a woman deeply doesn't just say he cares. He proves it through his consistent presence. Being present means truly listening, observing, expectations, and engaging. It means putting aside distractions and focusing on what is happening now. It's in the way someone looks into your eyes when you speak, expectations, the way they respond with thoughtfulness, and the way they are emotionally available when you're in need. Presence says, expectations, you matter to me right now. It doesn't rely on future conditions or perfect circumstances. It shows up even when life is hard, even when things are inconvenient, even when no one is watching. This kind of presence builds security. It makes the other person feel seen, heard, and valued, not just in theory, but in reality. Promises, while often well-meaning, can become empty when not backed by consistent action. A man may promise to always be there, to care, to support, to love, but without the discipline of presence, those promises lose their weight. Words can only go so far. They can inspire hope, but without presence, they lead to disappointment. Over time, a person begins to realize that they don't need more promises. They need someone who simply shows up, again and again, with truth in their actions, expectations. Presence also reveals a person's true priorities. Where someone puts their attention reveals what they value. If a man constantly promises love, but disappears when life gets difficult, his promises are not aligned with his priorities. But if he continues to show up, expectations, even when it's uncomfortable, even when he's tired, even when it requires sacrifice, that presence speaks louder than anything he could say. It says, you are important to me, not just in words, but in how I live. Presence cannot be faked. It requires inner strength, emotional maturity, and self-awareness. It is built on a foundation of honesty and alignment. When someone is truly present, you can feel it. It's in their energy, in their consistency, in the space they hold for you. They don't need to make grand declarations or write elaborate promises. Their presence is the promise. It says, I am here, I choose you, and I am willing to be consistent, not just in speech, but in being. Presence creates trust. It builds connection, expectations. It fosters love that can endure storms. Because in the end, what we remember most is not what someone said they would do, expectations, but how they made us feel by simply being there when it mattered most. Distraction versus devotion is the contrast between shallow involvement and deep commitment. In today's fast-paced world, expectations filled with endless choices and constant stimulation, it has become increasingly easy for people to confuse attention with intention. A man who is distracted may appear interested. He may send a message, offer compliments, or spend time occasionally, but his energy is scattered. He is not rooted in commitment, nor is he anchored in purpose. His actions are often reactive rather than intentional, and the connection he offers is surface level. Distraction can look like affection, but it lacks consistency, reliability, and depth. It creates an illusion of connection, while withholding the essence of true partnership. When a man is distracted, his presence comes and goes. One day, he may show great enthusiasm, and the next, he may withdraw emotionally without explanation. His energy is divided. Part of him is with the woman, and the rest is wandering, entertaining other options, or chasing temporary pleasure. This type of presence is unreliable, and over time, expectations, it causes the woman to feel emotionally unstable and unsure of her place in his life. She may begin to question her own worth, not because she is lacking, but because his inconsistency distorts the emotional environment. Distraction leads to confusion, not because the signals are complicated, but because they lack direction. In contrast, devotion is clarity in action. It is not loud or dramatic, but it is unwavering. A man who is devoted is not led by convenience or fleeting emotions. He is led by alignment, values, and inner stillness. His connection to the woman is not based on how much attention she gives, or how easy the relationship is. It is based on the intention to build, to support, to grow, and to honor. Devotion does not waver with time or mood. It remains steady because it is rooted in something deeper than desire, expectations. It is rooted in decision. A man who is devoted doesn't need reminders to be present or committed. His devotion naturally shapes his behavior. Devotion brings a different level of energy to a relationship. It creates a safe space for vulnerability, trust, and growth. Expectations. The woman does not have to question his feelings because his actions speak for him. He chooses her, consistently, even when distractions are all around. He is not led by what's exciting, but by what's meaningful. Devotion is rare because it requires self-mastery. It asks a man to rise above his impulses, to silence his ego, and to operate from purpose rather than pleasure. It demands discipline, presence, and emotional strength. But in return, it builds something that distraction never can: real intimacy, expectations. The difference between distraction and devotion is the difference between someone who is just passing time and someone who is building something sacred. It is the difference between a connection that fades with discomfort and one that strengthens through it. Distraction flirts with the idea of love, while devotion lives it fully, through action, presence, and unwavering truth. Expectations, self-awareness determines relationship quality, because the way a person understands and manages their own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors directly affects how they relate to others. A man who lacks self-awareness will often project his unresolved wounds, insecurities, and fears onto his partner without even realizing it. He may act distant when he feels vulnerable, become angry when he feels out of control, or shut down emotionally without knowing why. These unconscious reactions create instability, confusion, and emotional friction in the relationship. Expectations. The woman may feel like she's constantly walking on eggshells or trying to solve problems that she didn't create. In reality, the quality of the relationship is not defined by how much love exists, expectations, but by how emotionally aware and responsible each person is, especially the one who leads with their energy. A self-aware man takes the time to understand his patterns, his past, and his emotional triggers. He doesn't expect his partner to fix him or read his mind. He communicates openly, takes responsibility for his actions, and makes conscious choices that support the growth of the relationship. Expectations. He knows when he is being reactive and when he is being present. Expectations. He recognizes when he is operating from fear or ego and chooses instead to respond with clarity and calmness. This level of emotional intelligence creates safety, trust, and mutual respect. His partner can feel secure, knowing that he is not just reacting but reflecting and refining himself as the relationship unfolds. When self-awareness is missing, problems become cyclical. Expectations. The same arguments repeat, the same distance grows, and the same misunderstandings deepen. It's not because the couple is incompatible, but because one or both individuals are not aware of their internal blocks. A man who hasn't examined himself will often blame the woman for how he feels. Expectations. Rather than taking the time to explore his own inner landscape, he might accuse her of being too emotional, when in reality he is disconnected from his own emotions. He might pull away and justify it as needing space. Expectations. When in truth he is avoiding intimacy he doesn't know how to handle. On the other hand, a man who is self-aware becomes a mirror of stability. He doesn't need to be perfect, but his ability to reflect, learn, and adjust makes the relationship adaptable and resilient. He listens not just to respond, but to understand. He apologizes when he's wrong, not from guilt, but from growth. He values communication over control and connection over ego. This kind of presence transforms the emotional quality of the relationship. It encourages openness, vulnerability, and deep emotional connection. Expectations. The woman can bring her true self forward without fear of judgment or rejection, because she senses that he is also bringing his true self forward. With honesty, humility, and heart. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional maturity, and emotional maturity is the foundation of a lasting relationship. Without self-awareness, love becomes unstable. With it, expectations. Love becomes a space where both people evolve, support, and deeply understand each other.